So this episode of A Closer Walk is actually by request. Every year since I've been born, I've spent Thanksgiving and Christmas at my grandparents' house. Except for the Christmas that I got COVID. But for the last 48 years, I've known at some point on Christmas, Thanksgiving, and Christmas Eve that I would be at my grandmother's house. I can remember all the way back to where it seems like there was just a handful of us, to where as of now, we can't all fit in that little house. We just have to scatter inside and out just wherever we can fit. But earlier this year, my grandmother, my mama, she went home to be with the Lord. She was an extraordinary lady and is and will be sorely missed. She was the last of my grandparents on my mom and dad's side of the family, which leaves me with only one grandmother on my wife's side of the family. And she too is an extraordinary and godly lady. And she grew up here and around House Mountain, and she made mention that I should hike it. So here I am. Now, I'm not going to do a video about my grandparents, but I do want to talk about that generation in general. You see, there's a Bible verse that I don't particularly like. No, actually, I can't stand it. It's one of those verses that even if I try to read over it real fast and partway ignore it, then it becomes like an earworm, like a catchy song. Then I just can't get it out of my head. It drives me crazy. So I guess you're just dying with anticipation to see it. So here it is. Did you see it? How'd you like it? Don't worry, I'm not putting it back up. Of all the verses I've tried to memorize in my life, that is not one of them, and yet I know it by heart. And I'm not going to elaborate on it either, because I don't have to. But when I look at my grandparents' generation, it does help me get a better understanding for that verse. The way I perceive my grandparents' generation as compared to mine and the younger generations is that they got by with a lot less. They lived in what we would consider extremely small houses and had modest belongings. I never seen them with the latest and the greatest. We would consider their lifestyle to be base and simple, sometimes just surviving on the bare essentials. That being said, their generation had a lot more character, better morals, and more common sense than ours. Their generation's faith seemed to be stronger than ours. Their walk with God seemed to be closer than ours. Their church services was even different than ours. And when I say different, I don't mean in a bad way either. They definitely made more with a lot less. So I guess I get it, talking about the Bible verse, even if my flesh doesn't like it. Look, in the end, having everything you ever wanted is not going to make you a better, more spiritual person. But learning to rely and trust on the Lord in times of want and need, and truly believing that He is enough, will.